Good morning, everyone. Welcome to American Scouser's morning coffee or tea with American Scouser. I don't know why I have Grumpy going this morning, but I do have Grumpy going this morning with the coffee. And with us, a new face, one of our newer contributors. Actually, his article, I Love You, Liverpool, Yes, I Do, came out last week, I think, or so, right?
Yep.
Callie is with us. Callie, what's going on, man?
Not much. Very excited to jump on to join the team. I don't have coffee. I'm on a very.
Oh, you're a water guy. You're in Florida, so I guess we'll give you that.
I love coffee. I miss coffee, but I had a procedure recently, and I'm like basically on just water right now. So
those are some of the restrictions, huh?
yeah.
Okay, so you should have mentioned that first. So, like before we went on air, we were kind of like talking about that, and part of those restrictions was not lifting 20 pounds, but not lifting 20 pounds when compared to coffee is way behind. That should have been like your first restriction name, probably.
Yeah.
But good to have you on board, man. Alan says, "Good morning, chefs." Good morning, Alan. So some news to get to. But I honestly let's start with you a little bit, since you're like kind of like newer to the channel. Tell everybody a little bit about yourself and how all this Liverpool stuff came about with you.
Well, my name's Calu Urrutia. I'm based in Miami, Florida. How I came to love Liverpool. So it's kind of interesting. So I was watching. I didn't come from a soccer background or a football background at all. I grew up playing baseball, played through high school, played in college.
Sorry about that.
Yeah, I know. Sorry, but I'm from Miami and I'm Cuban, so it's like I have to play baseball. I don't have another choice. Like there were no other options. But it was 2001. And I was watching England versus Germany, and I see this guy bang a goal from like beyond the half line. And I'm like, man, who is that? And we're looking around like, oh, Steven Gerrard. I'm like, okay. So after the game, we hopped onto FIFA, and I was just scouring the game for Steven Gerrard, and I finally found him, and he played for Liverpool. And after that, it was just like, okay, Liverpool became my FIFA team, and at that time, getting games to watch on broadcast here was tough, but whenever it was, I would, I'd watch, and I just fell in love with the club, and I started following it as closely as I could, and I've suffered and celebrated a lot in that time, and it's brought me to where I am now.
Nice. I mean, yeah. What's not to allow? What's not to allow? So here's one from Alan. Crawley Town's Crypto Bros owner, SEC manager, after just 34 days. And 3 games in charge, having accidentally put their whole squad on the transfer list and selling their stars. So how the hell does that even happen? Hold on, we gotta get more of the story. Is Crawley Town the team that I saw a clip? I think somebody posted on Discord that takes this corner kick, just like it's supposed to be like like a studied, worked out set piece, but it just like blows up on their face. I really want to say it was Crawley Town too, but gotta look into that. So a couple of headlines to get to, and then obviously we'll get to the news, and we'll talk a little bit about now that's week 16 or officially match day 17 is over. We can go with that. First off is James is injured again. And he does. I think like the most concerning part about it when I was reading about it is how he kind of like mentions that it's affecting him mentally, because obviously he came from like a long injury out. He comes back and he's going right back out again. I think I read something like he will be out for, I want to say like 2 months or something like that again. Either way, it's kind of like a long time. And I think like Callie, anytime you hear a player themselves use the word like mental health and stuff, you kind of worry just because they don't mention it normally at all. So if they do mention it, you would think it is pretty darn serious.
Yeah, it's a tough break, man, because Reece James is so talented. He's so much fun to watch. I don't like to give Chelsea a ton of credit, but Reece James is really a special player, one of the best fullbacks in the world, probably. And it seems to be a trend that's happening with him now too, right? So I can imagine the toll it takes on you, that you work so hard to get back, to get over that injury, to go through the rehab process, all the doctor's visits, the surgeries, all that stuff, and then you're on the pitch for not very long, and then you're down and out. Even if it's only for a month or two, I can imagine that that takes a mental toll on you too. I'm not surprised, and I'm sure a lot of players probably resonate with his beliefs. He's just one of the ones that are coming out and saying it. But it's a shame to see, man. I love watching Reece James. He's one of my favorite players in the world. So it's yeah, it's a shame.
Yeah, I mean that's the thing. It's kind of hard. We kind of say, "Oh, he'll be back." Like I know, like when we talk about Jota now and Diaz now and stuff like that. We say, he's going to be back in February, back in March, and it almost gives this illusion that like he went on vacation, he's going to be back, kind of a thing. Like he just flies in and flies back and plays, but it's a lot of painful. Um, like a lot of work goes into being ready to come back, all kinds of like therapy and all that kind of shit. So it's a tough time, and I think in most cases you're doing it alone is the biggest thing. Who was it that had like a huge injury? Well, I think it was like Ox at the time. Well, when we had Brewster, I remember we kept talking about how at least they were out together, so there was somebody to help Brewster along. And he even mentioned how helpful it was to have somebody else in the room with you. I mean, we make fun of our training room and how full it is all the time, but it's sometimes good to have somebody doing that kind of a long-term injury rehab and stuff like that next to you, because otherwise it is probably extremely lonely, I would think. Because I've seen that, like how the Liverpool training room was set up too. Like it's kind of like the whole glass looks at the pitch, and it has to be painful seeing people on the pitch playing with ball, and you're just doing like lifting weights and stuff like that. So it's kind of like a painful ordeal. So yeah, I mean it's a young club. I mean, like you said, it's Chelsea, so well in some ways, but at the same time, for the player, you have to kind of feel bad and say, man, that's like a tough ordeal. But let's get to our thing. So Gakpo is as official as can be. I mean, we were basically, I don't know, it was almost official, right? But now it is like he's holding the jersey, hugging people. And I don't know, I didn't see a picture of him signing yet, right? Because I don't think he can officially sign till we like January 1st.
Yeah.
But all but done. What's your take on the move overall?
I love it. I love the Gakpo move. Obviously, with the World Cup, his stock skyrocketed. But this dude can play. I mean, he's had 18 goals, 18 assists, and like 34 appearances. He's won trophies in the Netherlands. Balled out during the World Cup. I mean, it is a lot to love. Adds to an attack that when we're all healthy is going to be absolutely lethal. We have about 6 guys now that can really, play 2 or 3 of those forward positions and really do well. It's going to be interesting to see the dynamic between him and Luis Diaz and see how they kind of work out that rotation. But between them two, Darwin, Bobby and Salah, I mean, and Jota when he comes back too, like that's when the whole gang's back together, that's a huge signing. And what I think is great is that he's going to help us so much right away. And he's also a player that's going to help us, 4, 5, 6 years from now too. He's a guy that can stick around and really grow and develop within the club and be a force in the league and in the world.
Yeah, so we were talking about this on the Discord channel yesterday. There was a lot of like speculation going on. What is your guess on when we will see him hit the pitch?
I think we see him sooner rather than later. I mean, I think it's going to be way too soon to see him on Monday against Leicester, but hopefully the weekend after. I know Klopp usually does a pretty good job of getting guys onto the pitch pretty early, and he already has some familiarity with Virgil, and hopefully they can work them in quick. And especially given kind of our injury situation, any situation where we have Ox starting games, I think we're in a dire position where we need to.
Ox, man, like just
I love Ox, man, but like.
Yeah, it's been getting harder and harder to defend for me as well. But I mean, it's like you gotta lose hope at certain points. I mean, I still have hope that we bring that like old Ox back. But to be fair, it's not fair on him. I didn't like him at his peak at Liverpool on the wing. Like I wanted him to be that third player in midfield, and that's when he did best. Just hate him in winger, and I think he's been credit to him. And yeah, Matush says, yeah, this is a big opportunity for Ox. Come on now. And yeah, it is. I mean, he has, sounding like he has 1 or 2 more of those coming his way, but at this rate, it's just going to be impossible for him to, I think, get back, especially like you said, like you have some names coming back. And that's what I want to see with Gakpo. I mean, I don't know, when you watch these YouTube highlights and stuff like that. I went into a YouTube black hole late last night, and came out of it like an hour and a half later. But um, man, the inside of his foot with the rights, he can like put some balls in the box, which is pretty impressive. So I'm almost like feeling we can play him on the right as well, and we can play centrally. We've seen that for Netherlands as well. I think that's what brings it the most. So going back to that whole Van Dijk thing, like the familiarity. So a lot of talk from Gakpo as well that Van Dijk is the one who, I'm sure money talks and everything like that, obviously, but like convince him to come to Liverpool. And it feels like you look at Sancho and where he's at a similar age, similar profile, position, and stuff like that, and where he's at United, where it's not a environment that's set. I mean, if you were Gakpo's buddy or dad or whatever, I think it's a no-brainer to say, dude, go to Liverpool over United, even with the depth that we have.
Yeah. Yeah, absolutely. And I think having a familiar face helps. I think having someone like, okay, I can come into this club and I have someone I can relate to, especially culturally, someone who understands where I'm from, what our culture is and all that. I think that's huge. But I think you look at United, I mean, they have, they have their own financial woes. They're kind of a roller coaster club right now. It's easy to see Liverpool and say like, man, I can come in here and I can play right away and I can develop and I can play with guys like, Mo Salah and, Roberto Firmino and stuff like that are older that can help me develop my game. And, and it's easy to kind of see how kind of shambolic United is right now and kind of not want anything to do with that at the moment.
Yeah, like I say, if I'm Gakpo's dad, I'd be like, son, go to like Liverpool, because I would be more comfortable if he went to Liverpool, I guess, because of the environment that he's going to be in as a team, as a group, where we are right now compared to United. I mean, you've seen all the Ronaldo stuff, and more than Ronaldo, I would look at the whole Sancho situation and worry about my kid going there at a young age. I mean, he's not as young; he's like 23 years old, so he is like at a perfect age for it. But does it also say that my thought was, if he really wanted to play more up the middle, United would be a better choice for him to select in terms of getting game time. So he is almost more content playing on the wing and sitting behind Mo or Diaz when he has to, as opposed to probably going to United and playing up the middle a lot more comfortably.
Yeah, it could be, it also could be like, Klopp can point out, like, look at the history of the wingers that have played under me and look at how well they do. Like, our best goal scorer is Mo Salah, and he plays on the wing. Look at how Sadio Mane was here. Like the wings are much more involved in this offense than just, sending balls into the box like at some other clubs. And maybe he's just more comfortable playing there. Maybe he plays in the center at Netherlands out of necessity, but he from what I've seen, especially from like some of the highlights and stuff, it seems he likes to be on the wing more, and he plays better on the wing more. So
Boaz says Pep is a walking meme. We'll go to that. I think Boaz being up this early is a Christmas miracle right there by itself. But yeah, because Alan says, yeah, I don't know if you saw this, but Pep does one of his water bottle kicking from frustration on the sideline, and it just like flies. It just goes like a great shot into the dugout, and I think it hit somebody, so he had to run over and apologize and stuff. But it is a hilarious video when you watch it, because it really takes flight. And I think the funniest part was like Pep's reaction was like, "Holy shit, that really went," kind of thing. Because you do that sometimes, like you kick something in frustration, and sometimes it really takes off. But yeah, Pep's a walking beam, as Boy says. So let's get to tomorrow real quick. Or actually, even before we get to tomorrow, let's kind of like take a look at the scores this week. So not that the week is over. We were kind of like talking about it before we went on air, but it feels like it ended up being a week that Tottenham will look back and say, God damn, man, we kind of like missed out, because out of all the teams on top, they were the only ones to lose points. And yeah, we don't even ask Boaz for predictions over here, because he predicts 4-0. And I'm assuming Nunez hat-trick is going to be the next prediction. So I'll wait for that till he types that up. But what do you make of like the week? Anything that's caught your eye, aside from, like I say, that Tottenham loss? Yeah. drop?
I mean, it was a pretty prototypical week. Nothing, no one really got blown out or no upsets or anything like that. Tottenham dropping points is awesome for us. Love that. Um, Everton losing to Wolves and inching closer to relegation it warmed my soul. That was probably the highlight of my weekend. And one of the games I was actually one of the games I was actually able to watch this weekend. It's been crazy because we have people over and stuff like that. Was Crystal Palace and Fulham, and Crystal Palace ended up going down to 9 people, which was just chaotic. Which I love. I always invite the chaos. So
Yeah, I mean, you look at the bottom of the league there, and it's pretty tight in there now. And you can kind of see it's slowly like the gap is going. I think Villa with Emery is not going to be anywhere close there, and they'll make their way out. Palace is one of those teams. What do you make of Palace? I mean, they're right now 11th with a game in hand, mind you. So with all the results they've had, I'm actually amazed that they're up there. I thought they'd be a much lower, but it's a team that you thought was going to turn the corner. They began the season playing well against top teams. They did not get the results, but you were like, man, if they play like this, they should be a solid team. Vieira's got this going, and not so much.
yeah, Palace has been a head scratcher. That was a team that I don't think anyone expected them to be like top 4 or anything like that, but that played top half of the table and like, maybe like, making like a team fighting for Europa spot sweat a little bit, but that's been surprising because I do think there's talent on that in that club. I think Vieira is a good coach. I just don't know what is happening. But I think they can still turn it around a bit. Their goal differential is not great. I don't know. I'm as shocked as anyone with Palace because I did expect them to be, not significantly better, but definitely more competitive. But yeah, as far as the bottom of the table, like it's tight. Like it's like 5 points or something like that separates 20 from like 13.
12 right now. Yeah, it's
Yeah.
crazy. It's crazy. So who is your early prediction to leave the Premier League this year?
Well, Southampton's been like demonstrably terrible, and so is Nottingham Forest, unfortunately. And especially Forest is a team that I wanted to stay up. Um, oh man, it's gonna be interesting. I think West Ham has enough to stay up. Leeds, I think they have enough to stay up. Bournemouth, I'm actually surprised that they've kind of climbed a little bit to 14.
I think people around them have been so bad. It looks like Bournemouth is doing decent.
Yeah. Bournemouth. I thought Bournemouth was my early pick to be like 20, like just not good at all. But I think what we're staring at the table right now is pretty accurate. Just because I think Forest and Southampton are almost like ready to pack their bags and go. I think we'll see like Wolves, Everton, and probably Bournemouth duke it out for 18 and one of them trying to survive, and we'll see.
So who do you pick to lose that battle?
If I'm being a bitter and angry Liverpool fan, I'm picking Everton. But if I'm being objective, I think Bournemouth find a way to get back down there and get out.
Yeah, that's odd you say that. I almost get the same sense in some ways. Well, Bournemouth will be the one. Because I still feel like Everton has a card in the back pocket of, bringing like making a coach change to get a boost of like 6-9 points later in the season kind of thing, if need be. But I think Wolves climbs up out of there as they get their injured players back. I mean, this was a huge win for them in that sense because not only it was 3 points, which is golden for them at any point in the season. I mean, when you only have like freaking 13 points so far, obviously 3 points is huge, but getting it against Everton, that's almost like getting 6 points, knowing like what situation Everton is in. So okay, let's get to tomorrow real quick. Get some early predictions from you. I'll be on tomorrow with like Kenrick, and we'll do like a full-blown pre-game tomorrow morning. And then obviously the boys are back tonight, by the way. Thursday night podcasts are back. It's going to be Mecca, Jamie, and Scott on this first Thursday night back in action. Those boys will preview the heck out of the game, and then we'll just eat the crumbs in the morning with Kenrick probably. But so what do you expect to see in terms of a lineup? As Matush says earlier, is this going to be another big opportunity for Ox on the wing, or do you expect to see something different?
Yeah, I mean, given our injury situation and everything, I do think Ox will get another chance. I'd be interested to see if Klopp rotates, like especially against the Leicester, like Fabio or Harvey Elliott into the mix. But yeah, I think we might see another Ox game against a club like Leicester City.
Did you, by the way, Matush says fantasy show tonight as well. For those of you who do fantasy and want the tips, these two guys are into it as much as they can be. So, oh yeah, that's another good thing. Mecca's back and he lives with Brandon Rogers, so that should make tonight's show interesting. But yeah, right after the Thursday night podcast, we have the live fantasy show. Good timing as well, because you gotta set up the lineups tonight, because God forbids you change them once the first game kicks off in the fantasy Premier League. So what did you make out of, are you saying Ox? I mean, obviously it's lack of options in some sense, but did you like what you saw from Ox where you would say, you know what, I would give him another run out, or is it just purely due to lack of options?
Bit of both. I think Ox will play because of a lack of options, but I do think he made some good runs. He made some good passes and stuff like that. He wasn't a liability on the pitch, I think,
That's fair.
against Villa. So I think he'll do just fine. I think like a lot of people, like we want to see that resurgence of Ox. Like, we remember how, or we still have the idea of how good he could have been in our minds, right? But I think he'll do just fine. And especially a club that's really struggling like Leicester, I think it's a good opportunity to, get him minutes, get him reps. And if we have to pull him out at 60 or 65 or something like that, we can, and we probably won't sweat about it too much.
Yeah, I think one thing that I liked seeing from Ox, and trust me, I was looking really deep to find good things to say, because I knew it was just going to get hammered with anything wrong he does, is compared to Carvalho. I mean, when you go to the lack of options, you say, okay, what is our other option if you don't play this guy? And I love Carvalho, but I think we do the same thing to him where we play him out of position in the wing. And I think he's almost like a little too young to be given that curveball as he's getting his, getting settled with his regular position on the team. Similar to, what we did with like Curtis Jones too. I think there are certain players, like a guy like Ox with his years, with his experience, he can adjust to a different position a lot better and get the most out of it. Whereas sometimes I think it's asking a bit too much when you do it to a young player trying to get their feet settled in the first place. I thought one thing Ox did a lot better was keeping his position, especially defensively. I mean, it's odd to say that probably the best thing we got out of the winger was his defensive work, but it was like, and when we were pressing, when he was tracking back and stuff like that, I think he was there. There are times with Carvalho where, like, he'll be on the right hand side suddenly pressing. You're like, bro, what are you doing? Because now when they switch the ball, the other side is open. So I would think if I'm Robertson, I'm probably more comfortable seeing Ox in front of me than, for example, Carvalho, just because of that. And I think it really helped Robertson. This was one of Robertson's best games in recent, like what I remember. And I think that was mainly due to, I know I'm like kind of like pulling everything I can to give Ox some credit here, but I think that was partially because of Ox's work rate and the fact that he would track back and he would be in position, more importantly. Whereas, Robertson does that overrun, like he makes the run and okay, well, we lose the ball. He's, Carvalho could be on the other side for all or in the middle, whereas you knew Ox was going to be in position. So I think that was like the biggest thing that I saw. So I would probably start him again. The only thing that, let me ask you this: that was an away game, whereas this is home against a team that's probably going to sit back more, but a team that we can really counter press, because that's when they struggle and lose the ball. Does that make a difference in terms of who you select?
I don't think so. And again, just for lack of options. But it's but again, it's a club that we know that we can potentially do pretty well against. And I think it's a low risk with Ox just because, and it's kind of some of the things you touched on is, he's a pro. At the end of the day, he's experienced. He's a pro, and there's not a whole lot of substitute for that, especially when you have a guy like Carvalho that, he's young, he's energetic, and like you say, he's kind of all over the place sometimes. Ox is disciplined and he stays in his spot and he does his job. And again, it's one of those games that, like, okay, by the time the 60th minute rolls around, Ox, you're not giving us what we need, then we can make a switch, and I think we have enough that we'll be able to bang in at least one or two to give us a win comfortably, because I don't see Leicester scoring on us tomorrow.
Oh man, famous last words.
I
mean,
edit that part out. We don't.
This is live, buddy. There's no way of coming back on this one.
Shit.
So I mean, that's the thing. I think you get what you get with Ox is against the defense that's sitting back and playing maybe like a low block, which I don't know if God knows what Rodgers will do, but you get that outside shot threats with Ox, whereas you get maybe like creativity and cutting back and like the give and goes and stuff like that with Carvalho. So I think it's good to have, if one of them is not working, the other one comes in with their style kind of thing. But I expect to win tomorrow as well, just because. And I threw this out last week, and we've kind of figured, yeah, maybe he won't get a start, but this feels like a great game for a guy like Keita, for example, at his peak, if he ever was on his peak, in terms of counter pressing, because it's a team that really struggles to build play from the back, like for Leicester, and they keep trying for some reason too. And in their back line, yeah, they lose the ball a lot, and their goalie situation, everything like that. So I feel like there should be another 3 points. And we need those 3 points too. What is your early score prediction for this one?
I'm gonna go.
You already called a clean sheet, so there's no coming back from that.
There's no coming back from that. Oh, shit. I'll go 2-0. But a good 2-0, a healthy 2-0, 2-0 that feels like a 4-0 type of thing.
I got you. Okay. Yeah, I can go with that. I'm actually going with like a 3-1, I think. I think they do get one, because we do tend to. I feel like they will have at least 1 or 2 chances where they break through the lines. And if they play Vardy, it's a guy. I mean, Villa had those chances. They just did not have the quality to finish at times, or the composure, I guess, more than quality. But I feel like a guy like Vardy and stuff might squeeze one in on a counter. But I think, back at home, I expect like a good performance and a win too. I have to say the Villa performance was encouraging. And so let me ask you this real quick. Gakpo signing, how do you think it affects the team? Like, is that a huge boost to the team, you think? They're like reinforcements, especially in an area. I mean, as much as Robertson likes to see Ox in front of him, he'll probably won't mind seeing Gakpo until February, March.
Yeah, I think especially in the interim, whenever Klopp decides he's ready to play, I think he gives an instant boost to his team, and a pretty significant one. Just because he's, the way he plays too, and I think that partnership between Robertson and him is going to be very, very good for us. And then when Diaz comes back and Jota comes back, then we'll see how it gets worked in. But it helps massively with the rotations, It was something we desperately needed. So I think we can pick up a solid midfielder in January. I think we're going to see a huge turning point for this club this season.
I'm hoping too. It's almost there, people. It's the 29th. A couple more days, we're in January. And I would think the way it's going, and we were, before we went on air, we were kind of like taking a peek at the schedule for January. The sooner the better to get the reinforcements in and settled. And at least, if nothing else, have like a rotation going, be able to bring somebody off the bench to get some, rest to the legs if we have a lead, like you're saying, if it's a comfortable 2-0 leads tomorrow and stuff like that. So tonight, the boys will dissect the hell out of this. Maka will have his Rogers bashing for like a full hour instead of the half hour in the mornings. With, like I say, Jamie and Scott is back in action as well. And right afterwards, our Polish Prince Mateusz with Gally will do the fantasy show. We're coming to these weeks where, I mean, it's no secret that I'm not a fan of this fantasy game, and it gets even more confusing and crappier as we get into these weeks where they're like double games and stuff like that. So definitely tune into those guys because a lot of good tips in terms of how to kind of like manage your lineup as we get ready for those, because that's really a huge curveball that can make or break your season. And a lot of street cred from these guys too. They're officially Mateusz is doing really well, and Gali has boatloads of experience. So tune in tonight for those guys. Back-to-back live shows, and I will be back tomorrow with Kenrick. Callie, welcome again, man, and thanks for joining us this morning. And thanks to all those commenting, liking, sharing. Do your thing, and tune in tonight at our regular live time, 8 o'clock Eastern, 7 Central, to watch the boys dissect and preview the game. I'm sure there'll be a lot of Gakpo talk as well. Take care, everybody. Have a great Thursday.
Have a good one, guys. Thank you.